Hey there, it's Coach Curl here, and welcome to this week's episode of the Coach Curl podcast. Today, I'm talking about authentic leadership and I'm talking about empathy. So, these two things are walking hand in hand in today's show, based around some very interesting, compelling events that we've seen here in Australia over the last fortnight. Now, we saw a scandal emerge with our national cricket team where they admitted guilt to breaking the laws of the game. Now, the outcry was enormous. Now, some would say completely unjustified, others would say completely over the top, but the reality was that it happened. There was this public outcry over admission from a sporting team that they had breached the rules of the game. It was indeed a national disgrace. Now, the three players involved were sentenced, and more so by public opinion than anything else. Now, I dissected this whole saga last week at the Dumb Leaders podcast. So if you haven't subscribed to the Dumb Leaders podcast, please do so. Check it out. It's dumbleaders.com. But I did a dissection of some of the leadership lessons that we can learn from this particular saga. But one of the key points that I spoke about is that once you break your values and once you breach integrity, you lose control of the process. So once you breach your values and once you breach integrity, you lose control of the process. And that's exactly what happened. But an interesting thing is now occurring because ultimately the players have expressed emotional remorse. They've openly cried at press conferences. And suddenly the public language went from one of outrage to concern. From being called cheaters to being people being mindful of their mental health. The conversation changed immediately. Now, some were still incredibly cynical, saying the tears were more of a result of getting caught than as genuine remorse. But the more, the greater the public conversation is one about empathy and concern for the players' welfare. Now, they're still being guided by very senior public profile people to accept the lengthy bans that they've had imposed. Now, many would believe that those lengthy bans are actually incredibly unfair and unjust, but they're being guided down that path so as not to embroil the public into nastiness again. But the reality is that, if the bans are unjust, and by comparison they certainly are unprecedented and excessive, it's likely that this will flare again. But I'm just going to park that to one side because what I want to share today is more about leadership. So authentic leadership has been in our vocabulary now for a number of years, and leaders are becoming more aware of its power and its impact. People want authentic leaders, leaders that are genuinely strong in times of crisis, leaders that have a purpose, leaders that serve their people by creating the best environment for them and businesses, organizations, even countries to grow. But as we've seen in this example, leaders that can express emotion and show vulnerability create compelling reasons for people to follow them. Create compelling reasons for people to follow them. Create compelling reasons for followship. Now, I also saw this firsthand in the Brisbane floods of 2011 when the then Premier of Queensland, Anna Bligh, was publicly emotional with the devastation and personal tragedy stories that she was hearing, but she was stoic in her response to fixing the problem. Now, her public approval rating went to an all-time high. So people were identifying, people were connecting. They saw her as authentic and they saw her as a human. Yet in 2012, her government lost the election in a resounding landslide. And of course, as with all elections, there is always a variety of reasons. But her resurgence in approval force changes to the strategy of the opposition. And complicit in this was the general public, again seeing Anna as we view most politicians. So we saw a strategy shift from the opposition, and we saw Anna go back to being a politician and no longer human. The party machine won over, and the people felt betrayed. She was harnessed to the party line. She was harnessed to the party machine. And the leadership of being politically correct, not wanting to upset people, she stepped back into that, and the people felt betrayed. They felt that they got to know Anna during the floods. She stood up for what they wanted, what they were believing in, and they stood up for her. But she returned to being a politician, and that was one of the many factors why they lost that next election. Now, authentic leaders, leaders of purpose, leaders who connect, leaders who can admit mistakes, leaders who continue to learn are the ones that we most resonate with. They may be humble, they may have amazing humility, but we connect with people like that. We connect with leaders. It's important to know who you are. It's important to be genuine with your relationship. Facades crumble. When we put up a front, the facades will ultimately crumble. So as a leader, we need to be genuine in our approach, be genuine in our purpose, and be genuine with our people. Because when you do, people will respond positively. So if our cricketers had come back from South Africa and fronted the press conference brazenly and complained about the severity of the penalties, especially in comparison with those meted out prior, the public conversation would be completely different. It would still be completely negative about what a national disgrace that is. But they've got the public on their side now. The public conversation is one of empathy. The public conversation is one of let's compromise. It's about, we want to see you back in the baggy green. We know you can do it. We know you made a mistake. We know you can do it. We want to have you back. But that will take time, of course. And of course we will. There's no doubt in my mind that we will go down the public nastiness route again when the players appeal the severity of their penalties. So what can you take away to become more authentic in your approach with your team? What can you take away from that scandal to be more authentic with your business? How can you improve in your leadership and take away the lessons from the Aussie cricket scandal? Now, there's many things that you can be doing. Watching, reading, observing, but learning as we go. And that's the critical aspect that I really want to share with you. Now, if you really want to discover better leadership, check out our sponsor at Think and Grow Business. They improve the performance of people in business, and we can help you become the leader that you were meant to be. So check it out at thinkandgrowbusiness.com.au. Don't forget, we support Carter's Cause, and they're running a comedy night here in Brisbane on May 26th. They're raising funds for Heart Kids Australia. So find out more at carterscause.org.au. And don't forget, seriously simple stuff to get you unstuck. It's available at all good online bookstores, including Amazon, Booktopia, and don't forget, 20% of every book sold goes to support Carter's Cause. Authentic leadership. Learn the lessons, become more authentic as a leader. But along the way, don't ever forget the golden rule. Just don't be an arsehole. Until next week, it's Coach Cole here, signing off from the podcast. I'll see you soon. Bye.